Express, one of the most controversial agreements ever signed, possibly in our history. Finally, there's a new version of it before Parliament for another consideration. One minister has already lost his job over the Ameri power plant deal. But new one before Parliament. Is this the better deal? We'll be exploring that on your show today. Now, we know what has happened this December. Government this month decided to go to Parliament and withdraw the controversial agreement submitted by Boakye Jacko, for which reason he lost his job, and replace it with a new one, a fresh deal. They called enhanced deal. Now, government then says that the renegotiated deal will save Ghanaians $51 million. Well, is this really true? Well, the devil, they say, is in the detail. We'll find out very shortly, because we have copies of that agreement that will be interrogated with my guests once we get into the details. What's the background to this? If you don't know about Ameri, then you haven't been in Ghana for a long time, because this has been a major sticking point in trying to fix the power crisis that ran for almost 3 years. In 2015, the then NDC John Mahama-led administration signed this contract with the Ameri to rent the 300 megawatts power, and it was on an emergency basis, right, to try and fix the power crisis that we're then experiencing. Ameri originally entered into this short-term boot agreement, and boot obviously means the build, operate, own, transfer deal during the time of the severe power shortages that we experienced. Initially, the agreement with the UAE-based Ameri Energy cost $510 million, $500 million more than. That's a huge figure. Now you understand why this was controversial. The NPP in opposition mounted a vigorous campaign against this. In fact, it became one of the key themes in the campaign 2016, because they said there was corruption, there was no value for money. They said the deal was simply overpriced. The government commenced a renegotiation of this process to ensure value for money. That is after they took power in 2017, last year. They formed a committee, remember. The committee traveled to UAE, and even that became controversial, because it emerged that apparently Ameri had financed the committee members, put them up in a hotel, paid them per diem, etc. That was his own controversy. They came back with a recommendation that if we renegotiate this deal, we can save the taxpayer $150 million. So what happened to that figure? How come we are now learning we're going to save 51 million? We'll be interrogating that when we go into the details. So we have the revised deal. A revised deal was taken to Parliament in August under a certificate of urgency. But the House said, we cannot look at this because there were many issues that were emerging. One, the Attorney General did not give an advice. Two, there were controversies surrounding whether the President himself and Cabinet had approved it. And so the revised agreement was to, as we heard then, was to extend the current 5-year deal to 15 years. This was Boakye Jacko's baby, 15 years, and bring a new company from Greece, we are told, to Italians to try and now manage this. Ameri will no longer have control, but there's under this new arrangement that Boakye Jacko was proposing. Now, analysis from observers indicates then that the proposed amendment to the Ameri agreement will see a cash flow of $1 billion. Government was going to pay a total of $1.3 billion, we were told, for the Ameri power plant over the approximately 15-year period that Boakye Jacko was initially trying to renegotiate. Instead of the original 510, people said this doesn't make sense. For a deal that you said was overpriced, was overvalued, was corruption involved, you don't only want to scrap it, you want to extend it by 15 years and pay $1 billion. That then became a big deal. This generated public outcry, as you may well know by now, and led to the dismissal of the minister. Why? Because we are told that the president did not know about it. The president may have been misled. Well, and then Boakye Jacko got fired. In comes a new energy minister, John Peter Amewu. Government then, we understand, in this new deal brought by John Peter Amewu, and we'll talk about the details shortly. He didn't do this alone. He did it with the finance minister. Those two individuals signed this new deal. What is in this new deal? Let's go through that. Government will clear Ameri's backlog of payments totaling $90 million. That is another new deal. Remember the previous deal, government was going to pay far more instead of the 510 million. But this new deal, government will clear the backlog, agreed to pay the backlog. Government shall also pay Ameri $6.3 million every month until the deal expires in the new deal. Ameri will also give a 5% discount if government pays the amount, the 6.3 million every month on time. Ameri will give us 5% discount. Ameri will also give government a further $7 million discount on the outstanding amount. Okay, so you're beginning to understand where government is calculating its $51 million savings from. Also, government shall facilitate outstanding tax exemptions for Ameri. Ameri shall accept a waiver of its variable charge of $0.005, and that will give you a global figure. We'll talk about that very shortly. From September 2018 until agreement expires also. Ameri will hand over the plant, to government after the 5-year period, which is originally what was intended. But something interesting will happen at the end of that. If Ameri is going to hand over, it must be in good condition. And if it's not in good condition and the maintenance hasn't been well, Ameri will have to pay us for that. Plus also, there are some very interesting interests on the payments that Ameri has agreed to waive as well. Government has calculated all that and say, we're going to save 51 million. So the fundamental question we are asking tonight, does this new agreement represent value for money? That's a big question. Answers after the break. My guest in the studio tonight is the Vice Chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, George Duka. Mr. Duka, thank you for your time here on PMS. But this is the second time he's been here in 1 week. A lot happening in this committee, and so he's a big man, yes. But the man who is saying someone is a big man himself is a big man. Director of Africa Center for Energy Policy, Benjamin Boakye. Thank you very much, Executive Director of the. That's a big title, by the way. That's a big. He's a big man. He's the biggest man, in fact, here. And I must tell you that we had tried to speak to members on the minority. We have spoken to the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adams Mutawakilu, who was supposed to be here, but his position is that the minority, as a group, the caucus in Parliament, will have to come to a common position before they would like to take on this matter, and so that's why we don't have a minority member joining the program this evening, and so you will not hear the view from the minority on this, because they've taken a position that they will rather meet and have a common position before they venture into talking about this particular deal. But however, the day this was laid before Parliament, we got some comment from Adam Mutawakilu that we'll share with you as we progress in this conversation. So expect myself to interrogate a bit of the issues, especially from the perspective of the Vice Chairman who is with us. So let me start with you, Mr. Duka. So I've seen the contract documents, and we try to break it down for our listeners in terms of what this new deal is doing. Let's start with the figure that we have been told will be saved, 51 million.
Yes,
we've
been
told
let me say good evening to your cherished viewers, and surprised not to see my colleague here, Honorable Mutawakilu, because I knew I was going to meet him or John Jinapo, and I don't know why they're running away from this good news. At least they could have used this platform for the first time to prove their sincerity, and I'm surprised that they are not here, but I'll forgive them. I know tomorrow they should come and commend the government on this.
Is this coming up? Is this coming up tomorrow?
By all means, they'll be around. They'll be in Parliament, and I know they'll be interviewed. And some of them, and I don't want to disclose their names on this platform, they've already indicated to me that, Honorable, this is a good deal. And I know there will show some sort of, magnanimity to say the truth for the first time.
What makes this a good deal?
If you look at the costs involved, we've been mentioning $510 million, and out of the $510 million, obviously that is not the total cost, but that is what we have been targeting to. the cost of the Ameri deal all this while. And if you look at the cost, and now saving about $51.6 million is huge for us, as a nation, because His Excellency the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in his first state of the nation, indicated that he's going to make sure that he renegotiate with all the PPAs that we did, and ensure value for money. That is what he told Ghanaians, and lo and behold, he's done that. He's been and stuck to his words. Make sure that the minister in charge works to that perfection. And let me also commend Honorable Peter Amewu and the finance minister for that sagacity. Actually, I would say that this. So
let's do some of the specifics. Let's start from the top. 51.6 million that you talk about that we're going to save. How exactly are we saving the money?
My brother, we were paying 850,000 per unit monthly. And that is amounting to the 510. And the unit installed was 23 megawatts per each, also totaling the total capacity to be 250, but the guaranteed output is 230. Now, what we are saving is that we've renegotiated for the backlog that you mentioned, the 90 million. We've renegotiated for it to have a better payment plan of paying 10 million by 1st November 2018. We're paying another 30 million by 1st January 2019, another 25 million by 1st February, and then 25 million, the last one, will be cleared by 1st March 2019. That is the backlog that we're having. Then, we've also renegotiated the arrangement because we've taken into consideration the 2.5 years left.
Yeah.
That is what we've done. And per the previous arrangement, we're supposed to pay 51 million from June up to the end of this year, putting the 90 million backlog aside. That is not included. But now, per the new arrangement that we've done, instead of the 51 million, we're paying 38.25 million. So that is huge. If we were supposed to also pay 102 million in 2019, and that one, instead of the 109 million, we also 102 million, we're paying $76.5 million. That is also a gap of savings. Then instead of paying another in 2020 102 million, we're also going to pay 76.5. So we've had that savings, and we are also doing, and we've been doing that, we did that, the variable costs implications, and that is about $16.6 million. We did not add that one even to the 510 million. We've been talking of that 510 million without the mention of the variable costs. And that variable cost of 16.6 million has also been waived. So we're not paying, no more paying any variable costs. So in 2018, we're supposed to have paid 90 million. That is the outstanding one. That is also deliberated on. That we've been given a leverage. Then, if you come to the variable costs, which is 16.6, that was put on us, we no more paying. In 2019, we're not going to pay. 2020, we're not going to pay anything. 0, 0, 0. So that is adding up to the 51.6 million. So we saving this sort of bringing genius team to prudently manage our economy for us.
I see.
The energy sector for us.
We will interrogate your claims about genius, because some may tell you that Ameri had always been willing to talk. You actually overcomplicated this. You would have solved this problem day one of your administration and just waited. We'll talk about that. You agree with him that this is such a big deal that we should be celebrating? Is this a good deal, this new deal?
Thanks for having me, Evans, and good evening to our viewers. I would say it's a better deal. Good discussion. Compared to everything that we've had.
Okay, so compared to Boakye Jacko, compared to NDC,
all of them,
this is a better one?
This is a better one. Because, we've been talking about the contract being overpriced, and therefore we needed some rebate, some reduction. But our position had always been that once the contract had been executed, once Ameri had delivered, its part of the bargain, because they were selling power, they were selling power plants, and the country agreed that we will pay $510 million for the equipment, and they agreed to bring the equipment in. So it was, for them, it was a done deal, and they had delivered the plans to Ghana. So contractually, we're bound to pay the money, because if we had stated otherwise, they may not have brought the equipment in. So our position was that it was going to be extremely difficult for you to pin them down by force and say, you have to come down. So it was really at the mercy of, we're at the mercy of Ameri to say we would reduce the contract price or not. And Ghana had to pay, unless we had evidence, as we kept saying, that maybe they procured it through some fraudulent means. But beyond that, as the Attorney General put it, we were in a better position to have negotiated for a better deal, because you had the Attorney General involved, you had Cabinet involved, you had Parliament involved. If all these agencies could not, defend the interests of the state and agree to pay $510 million, at what point do you turn around to say that the contract was overpriced? So for Ameri, we agreed at the price, and they brought the equipment, and we had to pay. But our position was that if there was good faith with a new regime, you start Ameri down and say, hey, this is what it is. We feel that the contract is overpriced, and therefore we need to pass on some savings to the consumer. We always believe that some good faith could achieve some results, and for some reason we kept dragging, until we had, spent 2.5 years, of the contract life, and we witnessed all the drama that actually unfolded. But what we are seeing today is going back to what we have said before, that go and talk to Ameri directly, rather than looking for another third party to take over the whole arrangement. Talk to the contractor, because they are the ones we have an agreement with, to see what you can achieve, from that angle. And once that was done, between the space, that this renegotiation happened, and now, about 3 months, we have a result that is much better than what we
What makes this new deal better?
So now what government has done with Ameri is to say that we have annual payment schedule of $102 million. Okay, let us agree to reduce that to $76 million per annum, and then spread the contract period to 6 years instead of 5 years. That was originally agreed. What that does is
one more year.
One more year. So that gives you a space, not to overburden the consumer, because you have to pass on the cost to the consumer. So you get a rebate that can pass on some relief to the consumer, and then you have an extra year to pay. So we're paying $76 million for the subsequent 2.5 years, and then the balance, the difference between the 76 that we are paying now and the 102 is moved to the 6th year, which is about 63 million or so. So, and that amount has also been reduced. So Ameri is giving the amount that is going to the 6th year, they're giving an unconditional waiver of $7 million, and then 2.8 on the condition that government will honor its payment schedule promptly. So if we pay on time, we get 5% rebate, which is a 2.8 million. So you put that together and you're getting about $9.8 million. Discount that is about 12.4 million US dollars, which is a significant savings, to get from a deal that was locked, and virtually at the mercy of the contractor, And beyond that also, we're supposed, beyond the 510, we're supposed to pay a variable charge of $16.6 million every year. So for the 2.5 remainder years left, Ameri is waiving that. So you put that together and you get the figure that Honorable was putting out. That's actually $51.3 million of savings in total.
Mr. Duka, having said that though, when this whole controversy started, you formed the committee, your government formed the committee, led by lawyer Addison, and they traveled the world meeting with Ameri executives and came back and told the country in a report that we can save $150 million. What happened to that figure? Because $50 million, it's It's quite a significant drop from 150 million.
Before I go on with your question, Ben made a very good submission on this point and mentioned that we've extended the year. We're still sticking to the 5 years that we have.
So
it
on
is
the
only
fifth year,
the payment arrangement.
they will still hand over the equipment to us
so
in good condition,
yes.
But you would have 1 more year to pay your debt.
So I just wanted to clarify that point, that we still have the 5 years to execute whatever arrangement that we did with them. Coming back, I believe it is not even necessary as at this point to discuss what happened there.
It is absolutely necessary.
We
if we are not saving 150 million, and remember we spent money on that committee.
My brother, you can't also tell me that $51 million is not enough.
Well, compared to what you promised that you can save us, 150
sometimes
million.
when you're playing a soccer game, you may promise about 3 goals. Some may say 5 goals. But what is important is the 3 points.
Unfortunately, the promise in football is not based on any scientific valuation.
Absolutely.
This committee did proper work, traveled the world, sat with Ameri, got lawyers, looked at the deal and said, if we renegotiate this, and Ameri said they were ready to say it, we are saving 150.
You see,
you're not denying that happened.
No, what I'm saying is, I do remember what we said during the electioneering campaign.
What did you say?
We said that the deal was bad. That is what we said. And that when given the opportunity, we'll renegotiate.
And you give the opportunity.
And now, Ameri is sitting on a different platform, coming in with my gents, wanting to bring it to Ghana, will have a different perspective if you are negotiating with them. The position then is not the same as the position now. Now I'm having my gent here in Ghana. I have an arrangement with you. I have an agreement with you. The worst scenario will be sending you to court to pay judgment debts. So what you do is now Ameri is having a bigger platform that they sit on. So why don't we have a different way of rather negotiating with them, in a genius way? And that is what we've done. So that, situation was quite different.
Which situation?
By the government then having the opportunity to have reduced to less than $300 million.
I get the government there, but I'm talking about your own government.
But
your own government set up a committee. You're not addressing that.
What we have done now is to reduce the entire cost.
That's true.
And that is the
solution.
You
promised the taxpayer that you can give him $100 million saving more than 50 million.
Because we knew the approach would be different.
So I'm asking you as a vice chair, what happened between the Addison committee and John Peter Mewu's intervention?
What we have done is to ensure that the costs that we put in then to reduce, and that is what we've done. We had processes.
But you put a figure. You pick a figure. You're not addressing. You seem to be ignoring.
What is important?
You seem to be ignoring that you set up a committee with the taxpayers' money that traveled the world and came back with a proposal that we've abandoned.
The committee that we set up had to go through processes, and these processes were to also vet. We did our vetting and told them, no, we can do better. Go and do better, and we've done the best out of the lot. And I believe it is a good call. We need to commend the government for this bold decision. The
committee did a poor job.
No, it's not about the committee doing a poor job. It's not about the committee then doing it. I wouldn't want to compare apples to mangoes.
No, but
I wouldn't want to do that.
Why don't you want to? You seem to
because they had a different formula.
Your own committee.
They had a different, not my committee.
Your government's committee.
No, they had a different formula.
What is they? Your government own it. You don't want to own that committee that was set up by the government.
I don't want to compare mangoes to apples because they had a different formula altogether.
What formula was different?
Let's consider the time frame. Instead of 5 years, let's do 15 years. And
did the Addison committee recommend 15 years?
Yes. No, it's not the Addison committee. What was the report that was presented?
No, I'm not talking about Boakye Jacko. I'll come to the Boakye Jacko one. That's a whole ball game on it. We'll interrogate that. I'm talking about the Addison committee.
Do we need to go there?
No, we do.
What is important for us
to
tell Ghanaians is what we've done.
I'm saying that something is. The reason why it's important, when you form a committee, you use taxpayers' money, you travel around the globe, and you come back and you write the committee's report after all the promises you made us, and you cannot deliver on your own promise. You deliver 50 million, which is okay, but you can't deliver us 100 million in addition.
If
that is good to interrogate.
In 2015, Honorable said Tekpe then signed an agreement with German ambassador in Ghana. It was around 34 million euros, and they said we should clap for them. It was an agreement that we're going to pay for 34 million euros. Now we're talking of a savings of 51.34 million. The money is very big. It is huge. That we've saved.
You say because it's part of the Ameri history we cannot ignore. You say this Audison committee did a poor job. That's why we are now facing the reality of 50 million.
Absolutely. I mean, I've read the recommendations of the
Audison committee, yeah.
And they were talking about reduce or cancel. I mean, you couldn't situate that within the context of the agreement we had with Ameri, And I think if you want a better presentation of the facts as far as that contract is concerned, is what the Attorney General did. If you read that report, and it tells you that we were better at the negotiation table. And once that was done, no committee could just say that go and cancel the deal without any basis to say that we have findings to show that somebody maybe got money for which reason they agreed to the terms, on that. So they recommended that a savings of 150 million was possible because they had seen the agreement between METCA and Ameri, which put a margin of 150 million between those agreements and what we had with Ghana. But you don't also forget that Ameri was the one who was bearing the risk because they had a contract with Ghana. They had to securitize that arrangement and then gave it to Ameri gave it to METCA, to deliver. So on that basis alone, you couldn't just arrive at a savings of, $150 million dollars. But again, it comes back to the same point. If you want to negotiate, you go to the company.
But Ben, was that one concretized that they're going to save, or just comments that they made?
It was a government official committee that came with recommendations.
It was a ministry's committee.
The recommendations were not firmed up, actually.
Explain what you mean by not firmed up.
I mean, there were proposals.
Yeah.
Because they were not recommendations that were accepted
by
Parliament, by institutions.
But Parliament didn't set it up. The Energy Ministry agreed and agreed.
No, it was a process that they went through. Yeah. The Energy Ministry gave them that mandate.
Yeah, and they accepted their proposal.
No, the proposal did not come to Parliament for any.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm making. It wasn't a parliamentary committee.
Yes, yeah, it was.
It was an executive committee,
and that did not also feed into the report that we had at the committee level.
Yeah.
It did not feed into that.
It doesn't need to. I mean, this is a committee that was set up by the ministry, to deliver a specific job, and they did their job.
I agree.
And we paid for it. So that's the point.
But my question to you, Ben, is we've gone running circles. I mean, forget about what NDC did. They signed the deal. Even this government, and it was a major campaign promise. They've gone running circles and wasted, some may say, 2 years. In fact, some have argued, I've heard some argued today that if we had done this in the first 3 months of 2017, probably would have saved far more than 51. You agree with that?
I agree with that. I mean, if you're saving for the time you have wasted, and mind you, Ameri is now having to waive any cost that could have arisen because of these delays. So what that means is that they could have given more if we had, negotiated with them almost immediately.
And Ameri was willing to talk.
They were willing to talk from all indication, and we were not willing to deal with them directly.
And this is the thing that baffles me. So they set up Addison Committee, spent months, came back with the report, reduce and cancel, which really didn't see the light of day. Then we had one of their own in Parliament begin a process to have the agreement rescinded, cancelled. Remember the Katie Hammond. Katie Hammond trying to get their deal, and Katie Hammond. He tried to push an agenda of having Parliament to sit to rescind the whole agreement. Remember that too? That also didn't see the light of day. We went back and forth about it. Eventually, then we saw Boakye Jacko also come with his own fiasco. Ended up the president was being misled. That's one of the biggest scandals in this government's tenure. Eventually lost his job. Now, John Peter Amewu comes in, a whole 2 years after, comes to a very simple solution. And Ameri had always been saying to people who were willing to hear that I was willing to talk. I mean, it beats me. Why did your government wait this long to get to this simple conclusion.
But my brother, who even indicated to you that we did not approach Ameri? And as for indications of,
did you approach Ameri?
Yes.
If you did, how come Boakye Jacko, in his thing he sent to you, wanted to knock off? In fact, the reality we know, and Ben will confirm, for a long time, this government was not paying Ameri, they were paying Metka, correct?
Yeah. No, but
you bypassed Ameri and we're paying monies to Metka, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. But what did the agreement say between Metka and that of Ameri? And did we flout any part of the agreement? That is the question we need to ask. But I wouldn't want to belabor that point. What is important is what we have done, because the question one will ask, you told us that you're going to reduce the costs. And Ameri having a different area now being established, or then having a wherewithal to say I wouldn't do it, because if you go on, I will just take my judgment debt from you. And being able to go ahead to negotiate to save for Ghana, Mother Ghana, is something that we need to all applaud.
Talk about this being a stroke of genius. Some say it's not. Ameri has always, they're willing, because it's a new government, to do business. And so anybody who was willing to sit with them,
you think so?
Anybody who was willing to sit when they're willing to make these concessions. Ben, you agree with that?
No, I think what has been done even showed that they were willing to talk. They were willing to hear the side of government. I think the position that government took at the time was that we knew a figure by which you could reduce the contract, take it or leave it, and that was not a reflection of what arrangement we had, with Ameri, where they were more powerful at the negotiation table because they had executed
a watertight
agreement that gave everything to them. So they could even go on the LC without informing government. So
please
that was
the
kind of the letters of credit, the guarantee that we put up for the agreement. They could encumber it, without any recourse to the state. So they were more powerful for a renegotiation. So that understanding should have informed the position of government, and that's why I keep referring to the Attorney General's report on this. That you had now a more powerful Ameri than they were when the contract was originally being negotiated.
And it's the same point that I keep on hammering, that Ameri coming in and Ameri now, you have different entities, because then they will really in a position to bring their machine to Ghana, and whatever deal that you would have signed with them, they may have in a way assented to. So having Ameri now and then, two different things. So using Ameri as it is and being able to negotiate to have this deal, I believe it's a good deal, and we need to be proud of it,
Ben,
as a nation.
Many people give credit to John Peter Amewu. In fact, 2 weeks after he took over, somebody very powerful in government told me he solved that Ameri deal within 1 week. And of course, this is for material. Do you give him the same credit?
No, I'm really surprised that this document is not coming out, because
it was agreed long time ago.
I had these figures maybe 2-3 weeks, after he took over, and I think that is a remarkable approach to resolving this. And you see, when it comes to matters of this nature, you are not only looking at the company you're dealing with; it has implication on your investment right as well. If everybody gets a signal that for you are just up to target businesses and chase them for contracts that have been signed by a previous regime, that becomes difficult for an investor. Mind you, nobody is a charity organization running around looking for a place to put their money. These are business people looking to put their money into businesses to recoup investment. So that signal alone was not right, and therefore, the earlier you were able to resolve some of these problems, the better for the country, not just for the power sector. Because if you want somebody to come and invest in the agri sector, to invest in service or industry, they are looking at the general investment environment, to take that kind of decision. So you don't want to hold on to some of these things for too long. You need to quickly resolve it. And I think he deserves credit for achieving this.
We've been speaking, but the minority members didn't join us today because of their own concerns about taking a unified position on this. And so, but when this first came to Parliament last week, when the minister went to Parliament and laid it, we got some initial comments from the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, Adams Mutawakilu, on this. I want you to listen to that, and then we'll see what he says, and then we'll interrogate that, plus some of the clauses in the new enhanced arrangement, which still gives Ameri some exemptions. I mean, what is that all about? Listen to Adams Mutawakilu, speaking to my colleague, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo.
Yeah, I see the lane of the renegotiated Ameri agreement as a vindication of the minority position in August 2017. The former Minister for Energy thought that there was the need to have an innovation agreement, and that means engaging another party. Non-engaging, he was not ready to engage Ameri, but engage a third party, Metallurgians, in an innovation agreement, and that finally got him fired. So the memory of the dead is a warning to the living. So when the new minister came, he thought that what we had indicated earlier and stated earlier was the best option, and therefore decided to have a direct negotiation with Ameri. And today we have renegotiated Ameri. I believe that renegotiating directly with Ameri could have a very good outcome.
So that is the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee there. What's your reaction to what he said?
I believe he gave a prediction that this negotiation will come up with a very good result, and we're here to testify to that. So I'll forgive him. He had not even gone through the report then, but ran to the media thinking that we're going to have different, agreements that will come to say, we tried negotiating, we couldn't, achieve anything. But today, they refuse to be here because the truth is now with us. Now we've renegotiated, we're having a good deal. Ameri, as we've been talking about, having a contract that says the clearance alone was costing around 26 million. That was huge. We did not add that one even to the 510 million that we've been touting. So we had so much entangled agreement that you take an aspect, it is about a different cost. You take another aspect, you can't even put them together. People say the total cost is 510, some say it is not. And so much, confused agreement. But now we've had a minister, we have a presidency, we have a finance minister putting their heads together to say, yes, let's go in for a deal that will be beneficial to the people of Ghana. And I'm happy to see this. I had a copy about 2 days ago. I went through, I said, wow, this is a good deal. We're going to meet as a committee to discuss it for approval. And I believe Parliament as a whole will be excited to see this. I'm happy, except, with its professionalism, as, vehemently said, this is a good deal.
He says it's a better deal.
It's a better deal.
So that is even better than the good.
In comparison,
It's
comparative.
In comparison,
if it is better, if it
to
is
your
better,
own
they're
deal.
good, because sometimes good may not be as better as expected.
Yeah,
so
but
if
it's
someone
in comparison to
says
your own
better, then he's even giving more marks than the good, because and that is even not the point. The point is, my brother saving about $51.34 million for this nation. We recently had a grant from Japan, which is even less than this, to do construct roads. And you know what $51 million can do for this nation?
Yeah, but you said something about your committee's work. what are you going to? You're not going to start considering the details.
But do you need to even consider anything to approve this? I believe everybody will say
at the
plenary.
We haven't heard from the minority say they want to take a common position on this. They might have a position.
My brother, that excuse was just to dodge your show, because I don't know what position. Did he consult the minority before making that statement? When he was interviewed.
This was in the heat of
Mutawa Akilu has been running around with so many stories. Did he consult the minority before making those statements?
But you don't have much time before you go on recess, though. Will this be approved by the House before you go?
Definitely, my brother. Definitely, it will be approved before we
It will be approved before you go.
Yes.
So, but when are you rising? This is
21st of this.
This is next week. Next week, Thursday or Friday, I think.
We are working on it assiduously.
So your report will have to come to the House
now
for it to be debated and approved before Friday.
We now have this appropriation that we're going through. Tomorrow we taking the estimates from the Ministry of Energy. The minister himself will be there. We're going to debate extensively on that. Then it will be approved, God willing, and I know with the discussions that we've had at the committee level, the report will
clarify this for me, though, as you're doing this. What happened to the K.T. Hammond document that he submitted for a rescission?
Yes.
Has it been formally withdrawn? Because I don't recall this being formally withdrawn, because he submitted he produced a whole detailed document about why he believed that's the thing. He has found some latest evidence that showed that government was duped, etc. Well, what happened to it? Where is it? Where is that?
Yes, Honorable K.T. Hammond put down a motion for rescission.
Yes.
And that motion was referred to our committee to go through. We are done with the report, yet to be presented to the Speaker for final determination. But what is important, that these are things that even informed and pushed us to arrive at this point. So that we've gone through some phases. Some we couldn't get them right, some we got them right. But what is important is for us to arrive at this point.
But you can't just jump to that, because you said something very important. You've considered it, you've done your report on the rescission motion, you're about to submit that to the Speaker. That's a motion for rescission. And yet, you're quickly going to jump to bring another report that says approve this, and approve it when the rescission motion hasn't been seen by the Speaker. Explain how that works for me.
That is an individual's motion.
Yes.
Someone putting up a motion at the plenary. I can tomorrow go and put up a motion, and what is expected of the Speaker is to refer it to the appropriate,
which it did to you.
Absolutely. So, and that does not mean you cannot take any other decision. You don't flout any standing order.
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying to you, the motion for rescission will undo all this if it's carried, correct?
Which one?
The motion for rescission.
Yes.
If you send your report to the Speaker.
No. Once, a presentation was made in Parliament, we had an arrangement that was put before Parliament. That was done by the minister then. Then it was withdrawn and a different one tabled. And that carries more than a motion that someone even...
Yeah, but that motion, what does your report say about the motion? Maybe I should ask you that.
No, the report is not out yet. It has.
But you said you are done.
Yes, we've done.
So tell me what's in the report.
We finished with it, and it will be presented to the Speaker.
When?
But now that we having
no, we'll come to this. When will you present? When will you present this motion for rescission?
Will you call for that report? Will that interest you? Will you have any interest in that report? Because I don't have any interest anymore. Because the most important thing is to engage Ameri and reduce the cost. And that's what we've done.
You say, will your committee present a motion report to the Speaker?
I wouldn't advise them to do so.
As a vice chair?
I will rather ask the committee if the members will agree.
Even if it saves more money?
No, what we have done, the report was, we need to know the content of what was referred to the committee. The committee, the Speaker, in his own wisdom, referred what K.T. Hammond presented at the plenary to the committee.
Nobody's doubting that.
That called for rescission. That did not call for new arrangements or new negotiations.
But you have done work.
So that wouldn't be better
but
than
you have done work.
Rescission.
You have done work on the rescission.
Somebody says let's rescind.
And you say you are going to give it to the speaker.
Somebody says, let's rescind our decision of what we, agreed.
Yeah, which is really not different from what Boakye was suggesting, really, because rescinding it is almost cancelling the deal.
That one was sort of, in a vague form, because let's rescind. Rescind on what? So we're now going to go into details, the nitty-gritties
which you've done, which you've already done,
and which I believe has informed this decision. So what is important is where we have arrived. Okay. The challenge was to reduce that overburden, that we had. I mean, what the NDC put on us.
So as far as you're concerned as a vice chair, you would advise that your committee kills the KT Amon rescission motion.
It's not killing it,
But that's what you said. You shouldn't push it.
It's putting it in a proper perspective.
Which is
now someone says, let's rescind. He's presented, to the speaker. Speaker says, work on that. Give me a report. We'll finish, and we've almost done. We'll finish and send our report to the speaker. The report may say, once we are having this, why don't we do away with the rescission?
Okay, but Ben, your comments on all that?
No, I mean that exercise was dead on arrival, and I thought, at the time I did a paper I titled "Who Bears the Thorny Ameri Crown," and I was really questioning at what point do you realize that some of these problems could emerge. When a document appeared before Parliament, due diligence ought to be done. You have to open up, receive memos, and be willing to understand from people's perspective on what they think about the agreement. I remember we wrote copiously about Ameri, and Parliament had copies of our write-ups, and nobody acted. So if you have a contract go through the ministerial stage, moves to cabinet, get the president and cabinet approving, and then it comes to Parliament and Parliament approves, the substantive issue was investment and money to be invested, and not when the company was registered. So if you did not look at that, it means that those were not important to you. You were interested in the money coming in to deliver an objective, and they brought the money and delivered the project. So you cannot just say that somebody bringing in, as they say, $510 million, you could just rescind it because they did not register as they thought. They registered. That was just a mute argument at that point. You should have done that due diligence. And all of that were also to ensure that the company will be able to deliver on the job. But whether they were registered or not, they delivered. So I didn't see that to be an argument that could fly. And no wonder it's taking more than a year for the committee to have a report that would never be released, at this point. So it was a mute exercise. I don't know whether some financial losses were incurred, by that exercise, but I'm not sure it's going to surface again.
We take a short break. When we return, so what lessons are we learning from this Ameri deal? By the way, it hasn't come to the floor yet, and who knows? Ameri is such a slippery animal. Once you think you've killed it, and then it rears its head in a very ugly way. So we'll still have to wait to see when it comes to Parliament, when it comes to the floor, how the debate pans out next week possibly, or sometime this week before Parliament rises. But when we return, what lessons are we learning? Have we learned as a country from Ameri? I remember ASAP raising several warnings about this whole emergency power plant in the 5-year period, etc., and the amount involved. We've come full circle to Ameri now reducing the amount by 51 million. This is not the last time we'll be signing agreements to have power plants. So really, what have we learned from Ameri? What has Ameri taught us as a country as we sign more of these agreements and our population increases and makes it imperative for us to enter such power agreements? When we return, we'll ask that. And plus, why are we still giving exemptions to Ameri after all the controversies that we've had over the last 2.5 years and this new deal as well? Stay with us. So live on PM Express here on the JoyNews channel. Ben, so have we learned anything from Ameri, and what has it taught us?
I hope we have. That is the only thing, because our governance system is so structured to save us from some of these problems. You have a minister raising a memo on agreements such as this. it goes to cabinet. The cabinet will scrutinize it, and then
that was the strangest thing.
Then it comes to Parliament, and Parliament will also look at it, you know. And within that space, even if we assume that a minister makes a mistake, it goes to cabinet. It has to be detected.
Yeah.
Cabinet fails, it comes to Parliament, and Parliament will have to do its best to detect whatever errors there are. And that's why we're happy that the innovation agreement, at least, we were able to point out the challenges at parliamentary level, and we got it revoked. So that is what the governance structure is supposed to do for us, so that we don't come doing post-mortem analysis to see what else can we go back to go and do. Well, we had all the time and space, you know, to be able to detect some of these problems. And I think going forward, we have to give ourselves time and space. Check all the big contracts and big deals. They go to Parliament, they put what they call it,
certificate of emergency, which is really, by the way, which was the same thing that was going to happen with the Boakye Jakudi.
Parliament all of a sudden will revoke their own standing orders and suspend it and say that, oh, for this one we will not allow 48 hours to lapse, and they will just pass it. You know, when you do that, then you embed some of these problems into contracts that entangles us, and we have to pay. And ultimately, you and I will be called upon
the cost,
to come and pay for it. And I hope that this is a lesson that would help us to be patient with the way we sign agreements and not rush into it to commit the country into more debt.
Hey, Mr. Duka, so that last point he made there, you have, in essence, 1 week to get this approved before you rise. Are you going to do this on a certificate of urgency again?
We're considering so many factors that can get this one kickstart. You know, we're rising on 21st. And
next week, Friday.
Yes, and I've said we'll do that before we rise. But as a guidance, you know, we need to also compare what we do here in other jurisdictions, you know, because I did some comparison of, you know, installation of same GETM 2500 plus aeroderivative gas turbine that was installed in Egypt was about 2.6 gigawatts, and that is huge. And if you look at the cost then in 2014, it was very low. So sometimes when we enter into such deals, we can also compare to other jurisdictions and see. But what I want to put across is we've reduced the overall costs, we've also reduced the financial obligations on this nation, and improved the payment terms of the outstanding bills.
I'm grateful that you joined us. Next week, you approve this.
God willing.
Okay, and a certificate of urgency, because you don't have time.
All things being equal, that's what we're considering.
Certificate of urgency?
I've not said so.
But I said all things being equal, that's what you're considering.
I said all things being equal, this deal is a good deal
that you approve.
Must all,
we'll see how this pans out in Parliament
to get it approved
when it comes. I'm grateful that you joined us. You've had the Vice Chair of the Mines and Energy Committee and the Executive Director of the ASEP. Next week, it might come to Parliament. We'll scrutinize it a bit more once it does. Enjoy your evening.